The invitations had been sent weeks earlier, the ballroom had been decorated with elegant white flowers, the grand piano stood ready beneath sparkling chandeliers, and a three-tier birthday cake waited in the center of the room. Yet as the clock moved closer to noon, the seats remained painfully empty. From her wheelchair near the floor-to-ceiling windows, 42-year-old CEO Eleanor Hart stared at the silent hall with trembling hands. Once celebrated by politicians, celebrities, and powerful business leaders, she now believed that success had vanished the moment she lost the use of her legs after a tragic highway accident. The woman who had once inspired thousands now expected to spend her birthday alone. She whispered to herself that perhaps people only loved success, not the person behind it. But before this unforgettable day ended, one unexpected visitor would change everything she believed about kindness, family, and the true meaning of being remembered. Before we continue, if you believe kindness deserves a second chance in this world, please take a moment to like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share this story with someone you love, and subscribe to Kindness Tales Journey. Your support helps us share more emotional stories that remind us humanity still exists. Only 2 years earlier, Eleanor Hart had been one of the youngest CEOs in the country to lead a billion-dollar technology company. She was admired for her intelligence, discipline, and fearless leadership. Employees described her as demanding but fair, and investors trusted every decision she made. Her calendar was always full, her office never quiet, and every major event she attended attracted cameras and applause. She believed she had built genuine friendships with many influential people. But after the devastating accident that left her paralyzed from the waist down, everything changed far more quickly than she ever imagined. Although she fought through painful rehabilitation with determination, she slowly noticed the silence growing around her. Invitations stopped arriving. Business partners became too busy to visit. Friends who once called every week now only sent brief messages on holidays. Some directors quietly questioned whether she was still capable of leading the company. Eleanor never admitted how deeply those moments hurt, but every empty afternoon reminded her that loneliness can be far heavier than physical pain. Her personal assistant suggested organizing a birthday celebration to lift her spirits. Eleanor reluctantly agreed, believing perhaps the event would reconnect old friendships. Hundreds of invitations were sent to executives, investors, former classmates, neighbors, and community leaders. The ballroom was reserved for noon so everyone could attend before evening business events. The staff worked tirelessly decorating every corner with bright flowers and elegant blue ribbons. Everything looked perfect except for one heartbreaking detail. As the guests failed to arrive, every beautiful decoration seemed to mock her hope. Across town, 36-year-old Mason Brooks was finishing his morning delivery route with his 10-year-old daughter Lily beside him. Mason had once dreamed of becoming an architect, but after losing his wife to illness several years earlier, he accepted multiple jobs to raise Lily alone. Life was never easy. Every dollar mattered, and every hour was carefully planned between work, school, and caring for his daughter. Yet despite the hardships, Mason believed compassion cost nothing. Months earlier, Eleanor's company had quietly funded a community scholarship that allowed Lily to attend a science camp she could never have afforded. Eleanor never knew the names of the children who benefited because she insisted the donations remain anonymous. But Mason eventually discovered which company had made the program possible. Since then, he had wanted to thank the mysterious CEO whose generosity had changed his daughter's confidence forever. That morning Lily noticed a newspaper lying on a cafe table while waiting for breakfast. A small article mentioned Eleanor Hart's birthday charity event. It also noted that attendance appeared lower than expected because many executives had cancelled at the last minute due to other commitments. Lily looked at her father with sadness and asked how someone who helped so many people could spend her birthday alone. Mason silently folded the newspaper, finished his coffee, and made a decision that would alter two lives forever. They stopped at a neighborhood bakery and bought the smallest bouquet of fresh daisies they could afford. Lily insisted on using her saved allowance to purchase a simple birthday card decorated with tiny watercolor birds. Together they wrote a heartfelt message thanking Eleanor for giving hope to children she would probably never meet. It wasn't expensive, but every word came from genuine gratitude. When they arrived at the Grand Hotel, security guards initially assumed they had entered the wrong event. Mason wore clean but inexpensive work clothes, while Lily carried the bouquet with nervous excitement. After explaining they simply wanted to wish the CEO a happy birthday, the guards exchanged uncertain looks before finally allowing them inside. The ballroom remained nearly empty except for a handful of loyal employees standing quietly near the walls. Eleanor looked toward the entrance expecting another staff member, but instead saw an ordinary father holding his daughter's hand. Their appearance surprised everyone. They approached slowly, not with pity, but with warm smiles that filled the silent room with unexpected life. Lily gently placed the daisies into Eleanor's hands. She explained that although they had never met before, Eleanor's kindness had already become part of their family's story. The scholarship had allowed her to discover a love for engineering and science. She proudly shared how she now dreamed of designing safer roads so fewer families would experience tragic accidents. Eleanor listened with tears quietly filling her eyes as she realized her unseen generosity had traveled far beyond financial reports. Mason spoke honestly about raising Lily alone after losing his wife. He admitted there had been nights when hope seemed impossible to find. Yet knowing strangers still cared enough to help children gave him the strength to continue. He said birthdays were not about counting wealthy guests but remembering whose lives had become brighter because someone chose kindness over recognition. Those words reached Eleanor's heart more deeply than any standing ovation she had ever received. She suddenly understood that while she had measured success through numbers, awards, and powerful connections, her greatest achievements had quietly grown in places she never visited. The employees watching nearby became emotional as well. One by one they stepped forward, sharing stories Eleanor had never heard before. A receptionist remembered how Eleanor secretly paid for her mother's surgery years earlier. A janitor revealed she had funded his son's education without asking for thanks. An accountant confessed that Eleanor once delayed a company expansion simply to avoid laying off struggling families during difficult economic times. As each story unfolded, more staff members entered the ballroom after hearing what was happening. They weren't there because attendance was mandatory. They came because genuine appreciation had finally found its voice. The once empty room slowly filled with applause that sounded far more meaningful than anything money could buy. News of the heartfelt gathering unexpectedly spread through social media after one employee shared a simple photo of Lily handing flowers to Eleanor. The image quickly attracted thousands of people who recognized authentic compassion instead of luxury. By mid-afternoon, community members, scholarship recipients, hospital volunteers, and former employees began arriving with handmade cards, flowers from their gardens, and heartfelt letters. None of them came seeking business opportunities. They came because Eleanor had quietly touched their lives. The ballroom transformed into something far more beautiful than the expensive celebration originally planned. Children laughed near the piano. Families shared stories over simple meals. Volunteers decorated empty tables with handwritten thank you notes. Every corner reflected gratitude instead of status. Eleanor realized she no longer cared about the influential guests who never arrived. Their absence had made room for the people who truly mattered. Looking across the joyful crowd, she finally smiled without forcing it. For the first time since her accident, she no longer saw herself as broken. She saw herself surrounded by living proof that compassion always returns, even if it takes years. As the afternoon sunlight poured through the ballroom windows, Eleanor announced a new foundation dedicated to supporting single parents, children pursuing education, and people rebuilding their lives after life-changing injuries. She invited Mason to become one of its community advisors, believing someone who understood resilience could inspire others more effectively than any executive ever could. Months later the foundation helped hundreds of struggling families. Lily earned recognition for her science projects and inspired other children to dream beyond their circumstances. Mason found stable work managing community outreach programs, allowing him to spend more time with his daughter while helping others. Eleanor remained CEO, but her leadership became even more admired because it was now guided not only by intelligence but also by deep compassion born from personal hardship. Every year afterward, Eleanor celebrated her birthday differently. Instead of elegant banquets for wealthy guests, she spent the day with families, volunteers, children, and everyday heroes whose kindness made the world brighter. The empty ballroom that once symbolized heartbreak became the turning point that gave her life its greatest purpose. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Kindness Tales Journey so together we can continue spreading stories that remind the world kindness is never wasted. Special request, please comment with the words, "Kindness always returns," if you believe even the smallest act of compassion can change someone's life forever. As Eleanor looked around the room one final time, she understood that birthdays are never measured by the number of expensive gifts or famous guests. They are measured by the lives that smile because you once chose kindness when no one was watching. Sometimes the people who arrive carrying the smallest bouquet leave behind the greatest miracle. And sometimes, the family we never expected becomes the one that heals the deepest wounds of all.